No, but I'm here. I'm just brushing my
Okay,
teeth.
good deal. Okay.
Check.
Somebody just said check.
Yeah, that was me.
Again,
hear me?
what are you doing? Yes, that was Lanzer, right?
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
we
yes.
can hear Lanzer.
Okay, good. All right. Cool.
Okay, I'm starting the
So-
event.
Okay. All right, let's call this to order.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, SAC 2 meeting number 9, I believe we're on. What was that?
Sorry. Call to
That's
order.
Drum
Okay.
joining again.
All right, so SAC 2 meeting number 9. Has anything changed on our self-appointed roles? Bodie's still treasurer. Carlos, you're the secretary, and Brew, you're the chair. I'm the presiding officer. Signals PR.
Nothing has changed.
Nope, we're good.
Cool. I don't think anything's changed here. Do we need to go through this, or should I blaze right through it to what we've been wanting to talk about?
We can go ahead. We are at 61 on the last 4 weeks income, and mostly it's on the same distribution, mostly from crafting fees.
Okay, got it. All right. Any accomplishments that we need to note?
I think it's been mostly failures here.
Fair enough.
Nothing has changed. We still that same PIP is still in the voting process. Still has a few more days, and there's new ideas, but there's no new drafts. Just there's some ideas about to reach the popularity.
PIP 17 was approved by the foundation. It's still needing to go to vote.
17 is the DAO-caster?
I don't know.
Oh no, 17 is the media expansion, right? The one that is in voting right now.
Mm-hmm.
We want to submit it Monday, I think. It's ready. We have all the thing ready. So
Oh, you guys are ready? Yeah, that's gonna be PIP 18 then.
Wait.
Also, can I ask a short question? I want to have the HoloSim rankings of each council member, just to see if you guys dings or not.
What was that again?
The HoloSim ranking of each of the council members.
The HoloSim. Well, I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm at 39.
I don't know what y'all are saying.
I played
the HoloSim,
and I've been busy with Sage.
Minus points.
I couldn't get mine.
Minus points for Lancer.
I couldn't get mine to work.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, I had the issue, but you need to claim the daily quest and then it runs.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to do. I couldn't figure out how to freaking get the thing started. I was stuck on step 1.
Hey, we gotta stay on agenda. We stay on agenda. Well, PIP 17 was approved by the foundation. Did it? It's under vote right now, right? I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's live.
Okay, it's voting.
It has about 5 days left, if I'm not mistaken. 5 days and 5 hours.
5 days and 4 hours.
Okay. Are there any other PIPs that were approved by foundation?
Nope. We're still waiting on feedback from the foundation regarding the DAO-casters and Iris Bounty. The multi-sig is ready, and we already gathered the public addresses for our votes, but we need still a confirmation from the team that they got it.
Okay, I'm not sure what that means.
We should be going on with the Iris Bounty really soon.
And Iris Bounty was...
So the multi-sig was created, and we're waiting on something to happen now?
When we gather the public addresses of all the council members, and we just need to get the go that the funds are there, are available, and that we can start using it.
So we're waiting on Autonoma.
So just confirmation, yeah.
Oh, so the funds need to be loaded into the multi-sig wallet for us to
Yeah, and confirm that
Multi-sig?
we are part of the multisig and we can start voting. Probably an introductory call with Automata to show us the multisig that they said. That I imagine is squads.
Okay, so
Correct.
that sounds like a good accomplishment right there. Multi-sig wallet was created for Iris Bounty disbursements.
It was created, but we're still in process. But yes, it was
Okay.
created.
Cool. All right. Any other big events coming up? Bodhi, you're to establish a standard SOP by May. Is that
Yeah. I guess one accomplishment might be kind of minor, but we got a couple of the people that were needing payment into the whole system, like the new system with the SOPs that's outlined in the SOPs, and they were waiting for KYC. So one of them just finished the KYC. I think it was the 2 days ago in the afternoon, and so I think it was yesterday morning I went to take the next step after the KYC getting done, and it was just really nice. I was able to go to the SOP sheet. I literally went to it, not because like I just was like, okay, let me make sure I do this right, and I just went to the sheet, found really quickly and easily like the spot where I was at, and then just followed the next item on the list of it's like super easy to follow step by step. And yeah, just went from there. It was actually really convenient. Even though I wrote the thing, I still used it. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's working.
how many
as
people did you
intended.
onboard?
Well, basically we have 2 people that have passed PIPs that require payment. So if somebody doesn't require payment, they wouldn't go on through this system. Obviously, it's just for payments.
For Iris Bounty?
Yeah, Iris Bounty wouldn't go through. It's just strictly for
Theo and Ryzen
Bodhi,
right now.
tell me what I'm writing. Onboarded to what?
it's
Authors,
not really an
members.
onboarded.
Yeah,
It's not really an onboard necessarily.
Okay, then what am I writing? What did you do?
We just used it. I guess tested it. No, not tested it. We used it, and it worked.
No,
Yeah.
we started to use the system for a PIP disbursement with two authors.
Okay, so you established the SOP and you started using it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
All right. And we created a multi-sig wallet. All right. Let's keep going. I'm going to skip over AIs for now. I feel like that's going to go away soon. And let's just get into the meeting minutes. All right, so the first thing, oh shoot, I forgot to copy paste over, was the internal versus public versus office hours format. All right, second one was business case for something for me.
Yep,
That's yours, right?
Business case. Yeah, I'll go in and pull it up while we're talking about the formatting. So yesterday, I got y'all's the summary from Bodhi and Carlos about what you all were talking about and how the general feeling is that the format that we're going through right now is taken away from the quality control we have over pips, and we're missing something important. And so it sounds like that you all believe, or that some people believe, that the hour that we spend here in this format is causing us to miss important things in our job responsibilities.
Well, mostly,
yeah. Did I summarize that all right?
Yeah, more or less. It's basically that we think that the format we're using right now is still missing some check and balances that we are not performing as we should, and we need to try and change a couple things to see if it goes better. regarding the procedures and the way that we conduct the meetings and all that. So right now
And the two things that you cited were the missing the 5% ecosystem thing twice, right?
Yes, little things like that, or the we haven't gone as in detail together as a team into the pips as I think we should be. And and we've had a lot of different projects outside of that scope, and that's all good. But I think we need to find all of us talking about the different things that we felt and the different points of view that we had. We agreed that there's a couple of things that we can try to see if it works better, to keep kind of both things going, because it's not a matter of replacing one with the other. So the idea was we know that we're going to have a biweekly meeting with Automata and / Foundation. So we were thinking doing the Tagup bi-weekly as well on the same week. That way, if we have feedback from the foundation and the team regarding stuff that we have been asking and waiting for answers, we can update. And then the next week it would be at the same time an hour-long meeting as well, but focus on PIP analysis and PIP discussion and PIP ideas and Q&A and more interactive. And if there's no author here, we can still go and read the ideas and talk about it and talk about bases or propose our own pips that we want to use as a model or as an example or a project, etc. So that's what we
You want to trade the biweekly that we're doing right now? We do this 1 week, and then the next week we do a PIP review instead of this.
Yeah, correct. So right now we're doing the 1 hour of Tagup, and then we're opening for office hours depending on attendance and questions.
Mm-hmm.
And normally by the time we open office hours, some people have connected and had disconnected already, or had been here for an hour already. So we figured that if we split that energy in 2 separate meetings, and we come focused with notes and prepare to different things, we're going to have better quality of updates on the Tagup, and we're going to have better quality of office hours on the consequent week.
Yeah, and I think it'll help allow. I think it'll allow the community
together, but it's just what we were brainstorming.
I think it'll allow the community to kind of pick and choose their content too, right? Because some people might be interested in one more so than the other, and so they can kind of get exactly what they want every other week, rather than it kind of focuses the meetings, I think, a little bit more into different sections.
Okay.
What do you think about it, Lancer?
Well,
I don't know if you're there.
I'm here.
Okay.
I don't like the idea of taking our weekly Tagups away.
Well, they're not going away. They're just
well, they
going
kind of
every
are.
other week.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What if
That's literally not what he just said. He just said every other week instead of every week. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 1 week Tagup, 1 week office hours.
So they're not going away. They're just going every other week.
So in office hours, instead of doing office hours with people coming for questions, we just want to go straight into a PIP review?
Well,
they
both.
can also ask questions.
Yeah, it's both. It's a more interactive session with the community, and we're going to be checking if there's any drafts, we can go in depth together and gather our thoughts there, make sure that there's no issues that can be a problem further down the voting process.
Yeah, I mean that's what we do every week at the second
we don't
hour.
really do this in the Tagups that much.
In the office hours, Carlos. We do that every week for the second hour, right?
Well, I think where we're running into issues is that we're by the time we get to the portion of the PIP review, because correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically a 2 hour. Is it a 2 hour meeting that we normally do? So
Mhm.
by the time we get to the PIP review section, that's supposed to be at the start of the second hour. We're kind of, just to be honest, like we've been, doing the tag up and the meeting minutes and all that stuff for an hour. So by the time we get to PIP review, we're not at our sharpest already. And then we don't even necessarily prioritize the PIP review. Like most of the time we just go into um the like we haven't really reviewed very many of the pips to an extreme detail, and I that might be because we were already an hour deep, you know what I mean, because like I would like to see you know I would like to see us going over these pips with a fine-tooth comb, just because that's what's needed this early to just catch these little things that we've just been missing. I don't know if that's because it's just not being put on the on the forefront. Like if we're not just saying, okay, from 1 hour to 1 hour 30, like we're doing this. If there's any pips that we haven't reviewed yet, that's what we're doing for half an hour. But it could also just be that we've already been, going at it for an hour too.
Okay. Okay, that
I
makes
don't.
sense. So
And I
then if we
think
do week 1 of public tag up and then week 2 is PIP review and we just alternate and we
Correct.
keep it
PIP
at an
review,
hour.
PIP review / office hours.
Yeah, and the tag up coincides with the same week that we have in theory the internal meeting with the team. So we might have updates and new things that can start rolling on that, that we find out the day before. So I think it's a good pairing.
Okay.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say is if we get to a point where there's a lot more pips coming in, then we might have to go back to them being combined, because like it might be kind of a lot to like build up 2 weeks worth of pips if they're coming in constantly.
We need
So,
to
but I think
remain
this
flexible.
will work really well, particularly for this period of time when there's not a lot of pips rolling in, because it gives us a couple weeks for a couple pips to roll in. We might have, let's say, 2 on average, to just go over really, really well during that every 2 weeks.
And during
Same
office
goes with
hours, during office hours, we're also gonna start spending time on Iris,
Mhm.
Iris Bounty, and the DAO-caster role, if that pass the voting, because we are gonna be in charge of managing those, so we're gonna need to have those conversations as well, and it would be nice that it would be also in public meeting.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give my 2 cents here. I'm not a fan of having a meeting just to have a meeting, and it seems like our agenda is pretty light today. And last week it was really, really light. And so if we get so inundated with business that we have to do, then we can always switch it up as well. But as of right now, having a meeting just to have a meeting every week because we said every week is not the best use of anyone's energy or time or anything. So going bi-weekly at this point to me makes sense. That way we're not
Mhm.
we're quality over quantity.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think we should have our meeting regardless. And like Signal and I both agreed on this at the very beginning. If we don't have anything to talk about, then the topic should be why we don't have anything to talk about.
Well, that's not what he was saying. He wasn't saying to not have the meeting. He was saying, but by breaking it up, it allows us to go over a smaller amount of content. Like we have less pips. So if we're that's we're not doing a pip review portion every week. Whereas if we did it every other week, we generally would. So we would get in a good rhythm of doing that. We would start doing pip reviews in general a lot better by doing it on a biweekly cadence where we actually have a pip in general every other week.
Okay.
If we don't happen to have one, then that's that it takes there being twice as few pips to even get to that point. You know.
We can try it. See how it goes.
Yeah, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah, agreed. It won't be
All
much
right,
of a
so
change. I
then-
mean, we already kind of do it all.
So for decided, we'll alternate Saturday meetings from public tag up to PIP review office hours.
/ office hours. Yep.
And yeah, one more thing I would like to add too is, if somebody wants to hang around, or if we have time within the hour or whatever, to do some Q&A on the tag up biweekly meeting, we can have a little bit of that going on there too, right? So it's not like people can't ask questions during that week. So that'll be something else too.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Sure.
like now.
My
And then the
my
other
thought
thing
yesterday
that we-
was to transform the PIP office hours into a PIP review, but it sounds like if we're gonna shorten this both to an hour, so it's an hour consistently each week, we just alternate. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be an hour. If we have more to talk about, we can go longer, as long as everyone has the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
just separating
Okay.
the two things, and tag up with a Q&A, and then the next week is peer review and office hours.
Okay.
And then the other thing we might try is a different approach to the formality of the tag up, and see if we do more than a round table, but we still need to talk about that internally.
We can talk about it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
To-
but I would
to
like
be honest-
yeah, Signal is
To
not
be
here.
honest, I wouldn't mind. I was just thinking like, I was like thinking to myself, I would like to go over exactly the format we'd like to use. But then another thought I had was, it might be better to just take this one step and then, kind of improve it over time. I don't necessarily know if we need to kind of decide on every single little part of it, right? I think we could go over the things that we all agree are like not really benefiting us, but I don't necessarily think we need to get into the nitty gritty at this point, But I don't know. It's just a thought I had.
If we
I
want to chat about it, a little bit at our downtown meetings, the board that I'm on, I love what we do, but we do a bunch of it beforehand and not live, like the updates and stuff, rather than all of us just sitting here thinking off the top of our heads. If that was kind of done and typed out ahead of time and it just is there for people to look at, it's still the same thing, but it's just not done live. That's just what I'm used to. And then
I'm okay with
there's
it being done live. There's only
Well,
so much
let's
time that we
maybe-
can put into this as volunteers. Unless the other people are willing to help me type stuff out, then it's kind of on me to do it each week.
right.
let's-
But if
let's maybe-
everybody kind of gave their own report beforehand, they just filled out what they did and did it beforehand versus live. I could save some dead air time, and the engagement is a little bit more like, if you don't have to sit there and concentrate on taking live notes, it's a little more, you're a little more able to be more active. But
let's push some of
that's my
the more granular changes off to the end if we have time to just kind of have an open air discussion about it. See if there's let's cover the. Can we add that as like an action item if there's time?
Sure.
to dive into the details.
Yeah.
All right. And I feel like we're good on this front now.
For now, yeah.
We'll revisit Tagup format at a later date once we observe the effects of this change. I'm not a huge fan of the roundtable thing, but maybe you'll have a specific thing in mind where we can still feel like we're making progress versus it just kind of being a willy-nilly whatever someone comes up with in the heat of the moment.
It's nothing to do with willy-nilly. It's about the way you take the data. You can do it live. You can have a more structured place, or you can take the same data in a more casual conversation where everyone brings what the update needs to be, what the idea, what they're working on. We discuss the interesting things, and that's a successful meeting if we all have something to add and some feedback, and we're working on stuff, and stuff is being done. And then the next week we revise peeps and we go over stuff, and we're all familiar with all the details, and we have heard feedback from the community. It's just, I think you are very familiar with your system, and I, for example, find a little bit unfriendly the PowerPoint format for me.
Unfriendly as in just like the way you access it, or unfriendly as in it's just a lot
I
of
just
words?
never seen the drive to go into that PowerPoint and
Yeah, I
manage
will
it.
say the way, like the best example I can give is the way that we did it on the last council. It was more of the, I guess you could say, round table discussion type format. The main difference I would say is that during when it was done that way, I feel like most of us had to keep personal notes. Like the way it's done right now, it's like, okay, we're on this portion until it's done, right? And each person's like, okay, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? What do you got? And then the notes are being written live in a centralized way, right? Whereas in that other format, it was kind of just like, okay, what does everybody got? And then we'd be like, okay, has everybody got everything they needed to say? All right, moving on, And so it wasn't necessarily like going from one person to the next. And generally, when that was happening, you kind of had to. I found that I was like writing more personal notes for myself on the side, like on a piece of paper or on my phone, to remind myself if I wanted to discuss something later on uh, in the meeting. I would like write myself a note, and I would then come back to that and be like, hey, what you said earlier, I wanted to ask you this, rather than. So it was a little bit more dynamic, and kind of, I would say, fluid, but it did require more of the personal note taking rather than having it be done centralized, which kind of makes it a little bit more clunky, right? Rather than that more fluid. So
From the outside
that's
looking in,
major
it looks
difference I see.
chaotic.
Yeah, you could say that, but there's a balance to it, right? So
This slides
I
look
think
chaotic to me. It is that's the thing, and there's nothing wrong with this system. It's just the way I don't click with it. As I told you, if there were 5
Yeah,
answers,
that's fair.
this
I
would
get
work,
that.
because if we were all using the system and putting the inputs and doing the stuff as you are doing it, it would be a lot easier for you and for everyone. But I
Yeah, that's
am just
fair.
not connecting
Yeah,
with the
I appreciate that.
so there's nothing wrong with the system. I think it's just going over our heads.
Okay, I get that. I can get that.
like
So
I
I
still
like
take
that,
notes on my phone.
if I come and I come, it's my turn, like I want to work about this, I'm going to work about the, we need to work on the working groups and the DAO-caster role, and I want to bring this discussion regarding this and that, and I share the screen and I show some things, and then we get the feedback, we get the conversation, then we move to the next person. It's a little more interactive, and it would be easier to also interact with the people watching and interacting in the chat. I think I'm finding ways to make it less formal and more friendly for people to get engaged.
Yeah, maybe we each have our own separate goal for this public tag up.
Like last term, I was taking all the notes, the minutes notes, like who came and at what time they arrived and at what time they left and all that. And I had my own document, and I never shared that, and nobody else cared about that document. But I had it there for records, and then I did some
cared?
reporting.
Because this one's blank.
Mhm.
Can I get that? I didn't have any
No,
notes.
he said
in the
last
footer.
For the
term.
last term, not for the
Last
last
month.
month.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I care about it because at the end, when y'all were asked
No.
during the candidacy part,
What I mean
what
is that
did you
we
do?
can still collect the data. We just don't need to force a format on everyone if it's not working for everyone. And we can
Yeah, I
find
guess.
a more efficient way to distribute the load, so you are not the one that feels responsible for taking all the notes and copying and pasting and managing the document. And I know that it's got to be a pain in the ass for you because we are not really interactive with that document.
It's actually not too bad because I just copy paste this slide now and then I get right into it. The only part that's difficult is in the very beginning when we're moving through slides and had to do action items and like go back and forth and stuff and just recording all at once. That was the difficulty part, was the multitasking. But doing these slides right now, summarizing what we're talking about, that way none of us are confused later on. We can go back and read what actually we discussed. That to me, I think, is extremely valuable. And at the end of our
so I'm
term,
going to go ahead. You can finish.
and then at the end of our term, when someone asks us, like they asked SAC 1 at the end of your term, what did you do? There was like, if we go back, there's like 5 seconds of dead air silence, and as I think y'all were trying to figure out what it is that you did actually do. And then Funcracker talked about the PIP that you passed, and like y'all did stuff, but you struggled to actually list what it is that you did. And in this way, there's no confusion about what we did each month.
So I totally agree with Lancer. I totally agree that having minutes is super important.
Absolutely.
And just all we're trying to minutes. I'm a huge advocate for it. In any meeting I've ever been in, whether it's a city council meeting or a board, any of the boards I've ever been on, none of the people on the actual board or on the actual council, the city council, are the ones taking the minutes. It's always like a secretary or an executive director. We don't happen to have that, but we do have a Lancer who loves it. So I think having those minutes is extremely valuable. I 100% agree with Lancer. But having it like a formal thing, typing it on the screen, like if you do it in the background, you could even still do it on the screen, and I think that's fine too. But just I think having a little looser format for the other 3 guys. Me and Lance are probably more used to this. I guess Signal's
I think that's
probably
fair.
a little used to it, but I can appreciate where they're coming from, and I think I would like to try it and see the more informal type thing. So it's not that it's
appreciate where they're
bad,
coming
it's not that it's good. Oh, let's just try something different. Like they could be right. Us boring minute taken
No, I think
formality
the minutes,
people.
minutes are important. Reporting is important. We still need to put out, a too long to read report after, so people that didn't attend, know what talking about, what we did. That part of the collection is kind of the same. It's just not this. The meeting is not a structure about the document. The document is taking notes about the meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
the document's
And
more
the main
more
thing
background.
that these minutes right here solve is when we talk about something and we decide something, that gets written down for all of us to see. And if Carlos, you disagree with something that I write down, you can immediately correct that, and not 2 weeks later you catch it after I say something and there's miscommunication and there's arguments. This solves the arguments right now.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm not
so
really reading the document when we're having these discussions. To be honest.
Well, I get
don't
that you're
either.
not, but this is the source of truth after our meeting. This is what we
But
decided
I'm
on.
sharing why it doesn't work for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of pretty much on the same page. We'll keep doing, if Lancer, you want to keep doing the notes and minutes, and if we want to watch it as we go, great. But it's just not like feeling like we have to do homework and listen to a teacher or something like that. I
Okay,
think
that's fair.
we'll try it. I think we'll try it and see what happens. These guys could be right, or we could go back to more formal. We'll see. But the only way to know is to try it, in my opinion.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you.
You guys, the other two, you're good? I want us all to be on the same page.
Oh, I just saw the DAO shirt until now. It's nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
you just saw the Dow Emlyn T.
Yeah.
That's what.
Oh, is that what?
VB was
That's what
trying to-
VB was talking about.
Yeah, he was trying to peddle his wares.
Oh,
We'll give him a
I
shout
like
out
that.
later.
I like
Yeah.
that.
I like that too.
I'm gonna have to check that out later on. See if I can get a few.
All right. So, well, that was most of the conversation we had yesterday. That was a spontaneous conversation. It was an official meeting, and we'll talk about
Okay.
more during the week to see if we want to start doing that. Next week would be actually Tagup, because next week we have the automata meeting.
Well, let's start it next week then. Since it's be a tag up, it'll remain a tag up, and then the week after that, it'll be a pay-per-view office hour.
Correct.
All right.
Cool.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Did anyone before we get into the business case, did anyone want to add anything to their agenda item? To the agenda item?
I have a couple points, but they are not urgent or priority at all. So go ahead and do your thing.
Okay. What are they?
No,
I can
just
write it down.
reminders that the working groups, we just need to change some language so we can move that forward. The DAO-caster role, we are waiting on feedback from Dan. And I want to start the discussion regarding a distinction between 3 levels of pips, depending on the importance and urgency of the pips, as a possible future system that gets implemented if the foundation likes it and the community thinks it's appropriate, where we would have regular procedure pips like the one we normally do. Then we would have that is just a simple majority. Then we would have governance and procedure pips that would need extended foundation and automata review, super majority vote, or a quorum threshold, and over a 2 weeks period. And then a special case for urgent pips that required a speed process for different reasons, like security, whatever it is.
Okay.
And they would require a process as well with a council supermajority approving that it should go to the origin and status and foundation approval, and then establish that voting period depending on the urgency of the matter. But it's just a conversation for later that is not urgent because we are not in a rush to deal with thresholds yet.
Got it. Okay. Well, one thing I want to put a stake in the ground is, please, can we stop using the word constitution? We're a foundation company, and constitution as a legal definition that we keep on using incorrectly, and it's going to confuse things.
I don't think I ever
That
used
came.
it.
No, I may have used it once or twice. Bodhi may have used it once
Bodhi
or twice,
loves
and I think we're only using it because that's what Dan put on somewhere. Dan
Yeah.
Antarctica.
Yeah, I get you. That I said it then, and I just don't want people to start calling it like a constitutional SIP and all sorts of stuff like that. It's foundation companies have different words for constitution that they use, and since we are one,
procedure pips, yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, so the business case.
This is the moment you've been waiting for.
This is the moment I've been waiting for.
Show us.
So there's two cases that I want to put forward. One is a replacement pip for 3 and 10, which clarifies the Star Atlas Council rule. And the second one is a replacement pip for 4, which would clarify the ecosystem fund. I went through a bunch, all the language, a lot of research. I shared the doc with you all, but I went through all the research of what statements conflicted and why their confusion. Basically, why did a Lancer show up thinking that he could change the world, and then was met with the harsh reality of how the process worked internally. And this research document pretty much points out what I read that led me to believe that the council had more authority than it actually does. And also the ecosystem fund. When I first got into Star Atlas, I think I put in the foundation chat my confusion about what the ecosystem fund was. Because it seemed like an extra process that was optional, that imposed more restriction that regular pip authors didn't have to abide by because pip 1 authorized them to submit a normal pip. Then to come to find out, actually, as Carlos, I think eventually you helped me understand, actually this pip isn't for the authors, it's for the council to have like an automatic pre-approved set of pips that they could approve and push through to the foundation. All right, that makes sense. But in that case, pip 4 is way off kilter when it comes to what is it communicating, in my opinion. So that's what these two business cases are about. Case 1, and I just highlighted the TLDR here at the top. The two things I want to, or the three things I want to knock out in the Star Atlas Council is I want to remove the portion about governance matters and resolutions. That makes it seem like the council has actual decision-making authority, and it's clear that we don't. So there should be no those sentences should go. Otherwise, you have a Lancer thinking that is authorized because it's in the pip, both of them, and that's not how things work. We have to have automatas go ahead on most things. So I think that's causing confusion about what the Star Atlas Council does. The second one would be adding a portion about automata's involvement. They're not mentioned anywhere for some reason as to what their involvement is. So I think a normal sentence, not threatening in any way, just that automata is involved in the process and authorizes a lot of what the council does. I think that would have given me a hint far sooner, and anyone else who's a future candidate will too. And the last part is add a sentence that the Star Atlas Council are stewards of the PIP process. If that's what we are, then that's what should be in the PIP. Not about how we decide on governance matters and resolutions that we don't actually do. And that's the first case. What do y'all think?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of conflicting language in many of those PIPs. And sometimes they say one thing at the beginning of the PIP and a completely different thing at the end. So a lot of this needs to be revised. And this is going to be very helpful to have this conversation with Dan.
Okay, cool. I highlighted
there was one thing I had a question on the latter part of that third point. It says, as part of the progressive decentralization, governance authority outside of the PIP process is not conferred upon the Star Atlas Council without automata concurrence. I'm not understanding the word conferred here. Is that basically like
Granted.
we're not okay?
Yeah, we're not given that authority, and that was taken from. I have a quote in here that's from Michael in one of the recent brews.
Okay. Is there? I wonder if there are scenarios when we have we not been able to do anything outside of the PIP process without that? Like for example, deciding on that it's a 1 year limit. Like we couldn't decide something like that. Like if we found
part of our PIP review process.
So
those are the do's and
be
don'ts that we govern ourselves to in our criteria to pass things over the foundation.
Would that not be considered?
We're doing a recommendation. We're not making a decision.
Right, but we still would hold author. We still would expect authors to do that, though, right? Like if an author said, "Okay, I want my distribution to be once a day for the next year," we'd be like, "No, you can't do that." You know, like we would.
We need. That's why it needs to be. It's a recommendation. So if we're recommending it, is because it is within the parameters that we have agreed. You know, with the foundation, with the community, among ourselves.
But if we were,
we have outside that is the knowledge base.
If we were to expect it and say, okay, no, you can't write a PIP if it has more than a year's funding, for example, that was just one example. that we kind of came up with. We were like, hey, we should probably account for these like permanent pips that just pay out forever. So we said, okay, make it a year. It's something like that. We would 100% every time need Automata approval to actually put it as like a basically a rule.
I mean,
I
we're
think
just
Isn't the year part already in the pip itself?
No,
No.
I'm using that as an example because that's something that as council we kind of thought of. We were looking at these potential edge cases, and we thought how do we
Oh.
account like one realistic situation that we anticipated was somebody making a pip that just says, hey, I want $500 a month for I don't know how many months that would be until they hit the limit of the pip of the ecosystem fund. So we wanted to say, okay, there that the max allocation dollar wise or atlas wise is in pip 4 or is in pip 4, but there's not a time limit in pip 4. So that was something that we kind of anticipated, we discussed, and I do believe we got explicit permission from Dan, like we all agreed on a year, including Dan. But I was wondering if there was something like that we could make a decision on that we wouldn't necessarily need, or do we
make
need every
recommendations
time?
and the foundation give us the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, but it sounds
Okay.
like a no.
I think
Okay.
Lancer is right here. Like we
Okay.
have influence in how we see the process, when we were elected by the community to make some of these suggestions and recommendations, but at the end of the time they have to give us a go. And if they tell us like, oh, within these parameters you can do whatever you want, we'll go and do that, but we still working within the parameters that we were given.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna jump in on this. We're quickly running out of time. It's crazy.
True.
So your first sentence, remove portion about governance matters and resolutions. I wouldn't remove that because we do technically have influence on that. It's just a more involved process. So an example is the single transferable vote method that Funcracker and you guys did last term. That was changing the way governance was done, and Autonoma let that go through. And then you guys change and PIP 10. So the council terms and the single transferable vote, both of those PIPs were technically changing the way the governance was done. So it's not that we can't change governance matters and resolutions. It's more importantly,
we cannot do anything that any other DAO holder can do.
Yeah, we had to go through the PIP process to make those changes.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. So PIP 3 says that we have control over the governance process and some of that stuff.
But if anyone can do it, it's not a DAO. It's not a council thing, is it?
No,
Right.
I didn't mean council. I'm talking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lancer. So even PIP 3 and PIP 10, the PIPs can change the governance process if Autonoma is okay with it. So like adopting a values list. We had that internal meeting, and I asked Michael, like, hey, can we adopt a values list? That's changing part of the governance structure. That's not just the funds. So we can do it, but it is we're beholden to Autonoma and the foundation being okay with it. So I wouldn't want to take it all the way out.
This is the part that gets confusing, is because it specifically mentions that, and to develop resolutions, I looked up the definition and yeah, I don't think I was off base with how I interpreted it. If we can do anything, but it has to be with the concurrence of Automata, I think that should be what we put down. Instead of listing all the things that are possible, which makes it seem like in a PIP, you're giving the council authority for the stuff that you write in the PIP. But if Automata doesn't agree with that, then you need to remove those things. Otherwise, I walk in and other people walk in thinking, well, it says what it says. But
Right.
Automata doesn't concur with that. So if you just say up front that there is no authority that we have outside the concurrence of Automata, you kill that right there. It can be governance matters, it can be resolutions, it can be anything we want, as long as they agree. But right now, it doesn't say that at all anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
so
those pips were
just
those pips were made with a vision of what they want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
have,
yeah.
and we're
Carlos, I
nowhere
think that's
near
exactly
yet.
what happened.
Yeah.
When Dan wrote this and other people wrote this, they had a vision of where the DAO they wanted the DAO to be, but the problem is that's not where we are. And
It's
when
not.
I try to do what is in the pip, I get slapped down because it's not within the confines of how things work really. That's
right.
not
So
good.
I don't think we need to remove anything, but just add that caveat for clarification.
Well, let's
If-
let's read what it says, because I think you're going to move into the where it actually talks about that, right? So we can kind of get a better idea of what exactly it says.
Sure. I mean, we're run out of time, and I didn't want to bore you all with all the research because I sent you the document. But
No, this
yeah.
is where I have fun. When we're not looking at the fucking PowerPoint, I'm actually here thriving.
All right.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see exactly what it says. You know, we got your main points here, is what it looks like, and then we can kind of get into each one of them within the pip itself.
Well, so the part that's really confusing about pip 10 is it said it updates and extends. That doesn't exactly mean it replaces in DAO language. I think because you use the word updates that you also mean replace there, as in pip 3 has been discarded and pip 10 has taken its place.
Well,
I don't
it's
really
not
know what y'all
exactly-
meant.
That's not exactly what happened. The thing is that the mandate in PIP 3 had an end date that was the end of the first term. PIP 3 was made only to support the first term.
What?
So
Yeah.
PIP 10 is based on PIP 3, and then, did some updates after the first term with the decisions that were made with the foundation and between all of us, about what made sense in the moment.
And yeah, pip 4 or 3 is just for the first. It's limited to the first council.
That doesn't say that anywhere in here. It just says it establishes
It's
the first
somewhere
council.
there. It's somewhere
It
there.
does.
The first
Yeah.
Star
It
Atlas Council, yeah.
expires.
It says there in the first line.
This proposal seeks to initiate the process to establish the first Star Atlas Council.
The first.
That doesn't
Atlas
mean that. Yeah, that doesn't mean that it stops working after the first Atlas Council.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it does in other parts within that pip. But I also think that it doesn't. Does pip 10 include everything that pip 3 had, or was it additions and clarifications?
No,
Or did it have
came out
every
with some
single
new
item?
stuff. It did not have every single item. That's why it looked
Yeah.
like it extended it. But it used the word update, so maybe think that it replaced. But it replaced parts that it didn't actually carry over from pip 3 to pip 10. So pip 10 is missing parts of pip 3 that seemed important, and I don't know.
Like what?
Well, I think that was the reason that we used that verbiage, as instead of replacing, we used the more like update verbiage, because we weren't adding every single item from pip 3. Which
PIP 3 was very basic because there was no console yet. There was nothing made. It was, it was a starting point. And then it was supposed to be, figured out during the first term.
Okay.
The thing with this kind of language and this kind of document is that you can start interpreting things and looking at nuances of words. But when we're working directly for months with a person that actually wrote it, we skip all that and we just ask directly, hey, what was the intention of this? Okay, well, what if we do it this way?
Okay.
So that's basically why we don't, focus too much in the interpretation, because we can ask them, hey, what did you guys meant with this? And even one thing that Dan said that it was one way, then Michael said that it was the other way, which was that the ecosystem fund is supposed to replenish quarterly, which it hasn't.
Well, would it be
we can
beneficial
get into that.
if we're gonna make another pip anyways, would it be better to just say this one replaces it and have literally everything on that one, and just
I think
so
so.
the other two are scratched?
Yeah,
That's
that's my business case, is to replace it, replace both of them.
That's fair, because honestly, it is a little confusing to be like, okay, it's this one, but then you're also gonna want to take stuff from this old one too, except for these things. That's a little confusing.
It is to me, at least. That's just my interpretation of it. And PIP 10 seems to give the council more powers, which is really confusing given how things actually operate. So
That was
yeah,
part of the frustration that led to that language.
got it.
So
Got
this
it.
is the part.
We
This is the
wanted to
part.
get a little bit more autonomy to do certain things because we were wasting too much time waiting for answers, sometimes for weeks, which is
So wait, hold on. Maybe I misinterpreted something here. So did you all get automata concurrence when you put this wording together, particularly this section, continuous process improvement?
I don't remember this detail, to be honest.
Okay. So if
This-
automata is disagreeing with a voted pip, then I think we have a different problem than what I'm trying to solve for.
I think this is referring to aspects like on the knowledge base. For example, if we find one example was the other day when we had
It's literally stuff like that. We are limiting the funding for a year. You cannot ask for more than a year in advance of a recurrent payment. Those
that was why I brought up that example. Yeah, exactly.
That is basically what it meant. That we were going to make some decisions that didn't need to go to a PIP to make the system that we were working with make sense. You know.
Well, and another example was the one that we just had the other week where we said, okay, we would like you to talk about the future funding or like this PIP is for $5,000, but then if it goes well in the future, we're going up to 20,000. Well, don't put that as the top line, put that more towards the bottom, right? Like stuff like that, like expecting that type of format. Those are things that this line is referring to, those types of decisions.
Okay, I don't think that's obvious to me as I read it. You do mention the DAO knowledge base over here and providing feedback, but then you get into CPI, and that just seems like general council powers that I would expect out of any DAO. But that's not what's really happening. All right, I think that's clear. So I think in the replacement PIP, we stick to saying outside of, say, facilitating governance discussion, providing feedback on PIP, advancing readiness PIPs. Like this part will disappear and will be replaced with, in the current phase of progressive decentralization, anything not conferred upon the Startless Council without automata concurrence is not allowed. And that gives us the freedom.
We
I
do
like
have the
line
knowledge.
4.
We do have the knowledge base. You know, we can make a decision, for example, like the one I just said with the formative, where if somebody if they want continual funding into the future and that they're looking to eventually get to $20,000-$30,000 project and it's going to require multiple pips, it shouldn't say that at the very top line. It shouldn't say we're trying to get $30,000 because that is confusing. Like that's a simple change that we've recently gone through, that we as council can make that decision and be like, hey, yeah, you can have that in there that you want to eventually do $30,000 through multiple pips, but just don't put that as the top line.
Yeah, but that's our internal process to review PIPs. That is not really a governance.
But are we making that decision and thinking we do because automata doesn't object? Because the PIP 1 tells you what to put in, and then we say in the Star Atlas Council PIP, oh, also we're going to put together a knowledge base, and it's going to have rules that are going to change that you're going to have to abide by.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're giving ourselves that power.
That was earlier on the first term. We were given a very basic structure and needed to make something that made more sense and that was beneficial and scalable, and
Okay,
Yeah, that's
agree with that.
All the information was spread about different methods of information through different years and different things, and we just made one source for everything governance, and we put everything that existed there so we can keep adding and keep enhancing it, and there's nothing.
And that's exactly what these lines are for. Oh, sorry, Carlos, I didn't mean to cut you off. But that's exactly what these lines are for, right? Is for that particular type of situation where we discovered this like small, it's like a formative thing. It doesn't change the process. It's not really changing. It's just this is how we need it to be outlined, which that will change over time as more things come up, like that one example I just gave that just came up recently, right?
Okay, got it.
It's a set of standards.
Yeah, as long as our pips aren't disagreeing with automata, if that's happening, then everything's off kilter. We can't be passing pips and then automata says no, you can't do that. Then the pips are meaningless at that point.
That has more to do with the ecosystem fund, I believe. Whether
Okay.
or not that's the case.
Okay. Well, the ecosystem fund was actually, I think, a lot easier to fix.
What we do is that we take those people from the community, we help them to reach a stage where they are actionable because they have the structure and they can get our blessing on format and substance, and then we pass it over to Automata and we ask, because they need to give a go and set in motion the process, and they might have different considerations in head depending on development, depending on releases, depending on several different things. So that's why they have a last word on everything, but most of the time they are giving us a range where we can just act with autonomy and support the community, and as long we're within certain parameters, we are good to start making this money flow.
Okay.
Yep.
Well then, so for number 2, it's actually pretty simple. You add a formula to calculate the amount so that people know what the amount is at all times. There should never be any confusion about what that amount is.
That's got to be
Second one, add a
confusing.
blurb that the authority is delegated to the Star Atlas Council to determine when a PIP draft is covered by ecosystem fund and to process it through those channels. I think that's really, I think that's a lot of confusion right now, until we did that flow chart. And the last one I heard last week,
Yeah.
Bodhi mentioned we should remove the per person. I absolutely agree. That
Can you cover that second one again? I didn't quite understand that at the blurb. But yeah, that third one is terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that I understand that anyone trying to do a PIP under PIP 1 and not PIP 4 has to do like an extra automata review layer, like that to me changed the game. I didn't realize that was what was happening, because that is not spoken anywhere in the PIPs and would not have been intuitive to anyone reading that.
Oh, that's what that's talking about.
To get around to make that more clear, the ecosystem fund is the pre-approved set of PIPs that the Star Atlas Council is allowed to advance through the process without going through an extra layer of automata review and all extra stuff like that.
Right, that would be good to clarify. The one thing I'll push back on, though, is this first one with the formula. We can't necessarily add that into the PIP because because the refills are dynamic, right? So once they do a refill,
every 3 months will change in theory.
That's the point of formula.
Okay, so we're just clarifying the formula. Okay, that's fine.
Right,
Yeah,
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the original transaction that you showed us, or that you sent me, and I'm going to put in the what is it, the balance, so that, and then put the formula underneath it, so that anyone knows how. Maybe we'll make our own calculator. I don't know, but it needs to be clear that anyone who reads this can calculate what that number is and not be confused about it.
Well, we would only be able to do that as an example because every time that they put more Atlas in, that formula will need that the values will need to be updated, right? Because it'll be a different transaction with a different amount of Atlas, and you have to calculate the 20% off of that new value. Right. So we could put that in as an example. As an example, not this is the amount, because that will change, right? So we can't really put that amount into the PIP. Or that transaction. Okay. Or even
I'm just going to put the way that they calculate it, because we're going to have to calculate it every time.
Simple as a DAO vault plus ecosystem fund times 0.2.
Right. That way, it's always true. Like that, it blows my mind that we didn't know what that number was when a few weeks ago.
Well, and if it wasn't for the dashboard of Sabot, we wouldn't know how much the income is in the last 4 weeks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's why fair. I think that tip that he's proposing might be really helpful, but we will see what people think.
Okay, so that was the overview of case 1 and case 2. I'll also, like, the next step is I'm going to put the PIP together with the track changes of what changed, and then show you all, and then we can talk about the wording of it and if I got it right. But over the overall intent, are y'all good with the direction I want to take this?
No, absolutely. As long as we understand that we're just going to put together a really well put together document to give Dan to review.
Yeah, it'll go through.
He's an automata and he's a lawyer, so he has all the check
that's all fair. That sounds good.
So
And hopefully that this will lead to a PIP that that will clear a lot of fog that we have around all these
2
concepts.
pips. Yeah.
okay, I just put it in the chat. I don't know if you ever saw that, Lanzer, or not, but Anthony from Fly had suggested part of this language to clean that up. So I don't know if you
Oh no, I
go
didn't see
look at
that.
it.
Is this new?
Yeah, he had already. No, it was a pip idea from quite a while ago, but I put the link in there for you.
Oh,
'Cause
I did
it's-
not see
he had
this.
already-
Thank you.
Yep,
I'm gonna go ahead and link that bad boy over here, and I'll take a look at it.
perfect.
That's pretty cool. Nice job, Sly. Cool. All right, and the other one is not ready. I didn't get a chance to finish the RFP idea under the ecosystem fund. I'll save that for another time, and that's all I have.
Sounds good.
There was only 2 points I wanted to make real quick. Is I just wanted to make sure that we, when you were writing up the draft, that you included something for our ability to make those formative changes. And then the other one was the formula, right? It has to be dynamic and universal for future.
It'll be a dynamic formula. I'll make sure.
Just
I
those
put
two
that down.
things. I just want to. Those are the only 2 things that were. I just wanted to make sure that because we'll have to cover those anyways if they don't get in there.
Agreed on approach. Awaiting Lanzer to construct pip draft. I guess then it'd be called pip idea.
You're probably gonna have to combine because, like I said, we don't have everything in PIP 10 that was in PIP 4, so I think it's
I'm
gonna
gonna
have to
combine
be a combination. Yeah,
Yeah, no
that'll
problem.
be good.
Yeah.
So I think that would be really good.
Okay, and before we transition over office hours, anyone want to say something or go over anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm glad that we. Thanks for your feedback on that. I didn't want to bang my head against the wall and waste all that time putting together a beautiful plan only to get it shot down.
Like, it's nice, but nah.
Yeah. I think I'm done doing that. All right,
Nice.
office hours. Do we have any pip draft authors that would like to come off mute? Do we even have any pip drafts right now?
So I was
Yeah.
gonna check.
I mean, yeah, we've got a bunch, but like Bodie's, mine, Signals.
Okay.
Wait, which one did I make?
Your
No, on the active ones, we only have the media expansion that is promoted to voting. No, we don't have anything right now. Everything is
well,
on
we
the
could-
other
voted.
posts.
We could do the working groups one. I mean, it's just a slight verbiage change that we don't have anything else
Hey,
to
you
do.
guys,
Working
hey,
groups. Okay.
Falco here. Can you guys hear me? Are you guys
Yes, we
are you
can.
guys
Yep.
open to just some quick sort of catch up and little
No, this is
feedback
your
maybe?
time.
What's
This
up,
is your
Falcor?
Okay, cool. So yeah, you guys know I was involved with the whole thing with the grant writing group when that was kicking off with Lanzer, and I've been exploring my own stuff with, IRL bus stuff, which long story short, it tied in with Solana Super Teams, and the leader of that is this guy Super Simon. Turns out he's in Nova Scotia. Turns out this other awesome group at a university is here. In the GBA, I had some feedback from virtual sort of consulting kind of stuff like, we should focus on universities. So literally the same day that he said that, I found an amazing group at Dalhousie University in downtown Halifax, about an hour from here. Ironically, they don't even know what blockchain is. Like there's right up the street, there's another one I was hoping to do, which is Acadia University, and they're just clueless. So anyways, I made an hour-long drive out there, and they attended a meeting, hooked into their Discord, and there's amazing things happening. So I'm sort of exploring partnerships. We're in the process. They're very dev focused, doing hackathons and stuff, but basically they're putting together a whole curriculum. I have a crypto education guy, just basic onboarding kind of stuff, and then they have another guy, Justin. So things are coming together. There's going to be another meeting multiple projects involved, different L1s where these guys are being showered with money and going on global trips. It's just crazy. I had no idea that this was happening. So basically, I don't know if this would be a PIP or a DAO partnership or something with the team, but there's going to be further meetings and just sort of planting the seeds that this is happening, because this obviously is fresh blood with
All of the
university
above.
students. And yeah, so that's sort of what's going on. So I'm gonna have another meeting next week, and these guys, they're literally just having money thrown at them. Like Sui gave them like $2,000 each, and they flew somewhere and they got a penthouse for a week. And then I guess Ethereum Foundation, there's like a meeting next week. So there's almost like a way we could piggyback off of that, because the curriculum is being put together anyway. And our gaming stuff is way more fun than that other stuff, right? So
Is that
yeah.
is that the super team or something else?
No, it was through Super Team. That's just how I found them. But this is actually a group of young guys at
We
Dalhousie
lost you.
University. I can share the website, but yeah, hackathons, and
Because
yeah,
I'm
it's
pitching
pretty
this
pretty cool.
to Santi for a long time now. Because they came up basically with that. Yeah, we have the local Star Atlas teams everywhere and stuff. And I always said the first thing should be like to connect to the Solana super teams locally, because they have a lot of money and they have a lot of connections and all this kind of stuff. But I'm not sure how that ties into a PIP or anything.
Well, I just put the link in the chat. So basically, they're about to get listed. Like they're throwing shit tons of money at them from I forget the other projects, but Sui, they're about to be listed on their website as an education partner with funding that goes along with that. So in terms of Star Atlas, I had a call with one of the dev guys, and then the founder of this group is interested. He's a gamer himself. So it's kind of like, okay, well, how could that work? I mean, if they're getting tens, I mean, they literally get $10,000 to $100,000 just from governance tokens from different projects just to try it out, just from being a university. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do? Like maybe if there was a PIP or just something from a team, I'm already working with them within Rome and everything like that. But it's like, maybe they can learn on Holosim and then maybe do rentals, get some ships and do rentals. And it's like, okay, this is what the yield is. This is like the basics.
Yeah,
And then
the problem is
get people
you
operating their
always
own
have
ship.
to go to Atma, I think they don't like if we make connections to other like investors, or how to say,
Man,
Well,
you
these
would need
guys,
such a nice mod.
they are interested in the bus too. So this is sort of my thing that is benefiting at the larger level. So I'm just sharing, and I don't
Yeah,
know
I
how
was
that might
thinking,
work.
for example, yeah, for our PIP, for the community meetup, like I was thinking, like asking the super team to sponsor stuff, and Bonk and some other guys I know. So, but I'm not sure if that's good for the DAO or not.
Well, that's the thing. Like these guys, like what it seems kind of surface level so far. I mean, I just attended the one meeting, but they were saying after next week's meeting with the ETH Foundation, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to try to get them to fly us to France, and it's like, okay, to what end, right? Like, it's like, hot tubs and freaking,
Yeah, I
whatever.
always get jealous. Like if I see other guys like Sadlers is like the poorest thing ever in that regard. It's always like a little bit discouraging.
But we
But
got the fun
cool.
factor, and I am literally face to face with these guys, and I'm starting to understand. Like, I never had the cash flow to make it to the last three freaking, breakpoint things, and I see everyone connecting, and
I
now
feel
I'm
you.
getting in that myself, right? So yeah, just sort of sharing that's what's going on there. So it might be something with the grant writing team, with Lanzer and Bohemian and whoever else wants to take part, because it's bigger sort of ecosystem level kind of stuff for onboarding, right? It's not just
Yeah,
you
there's a
know
lot of
and
opportunity there.
yeah, because I had another grant in, and I have 2 more that I'm going to be doing soon because I've been in DMs and stuff with this Super Simon guy, and he's like, yeah, just focus on the public good and keep going, and they're all getting to know me. So it's it's I don't know, it's just all about the people for me, and it's just really I've been looking for this for a long time. I mean, honestly, I'm in the middle of freaking nowhere. Nova Scotia is already in the middle of nowhere, so I'm in the rural part of that. So when I drive an hour into the city, it's like, holy shit, these guys have been here. Like they just started in November, but it's really freaking cool. So that's what's going on.
Alcor, you better be careful. You're going to be in a movie. You're going to be in all face to face with these people. God damn.
Gonna start getting
Okay, yeah.
recognized.
So that's that's why I'm bringing this up here, because I was in this thing. I'll add a picture. Oh shit, it's on my cell phone. Never mind. I'll put it later. But yeah, so I'm in this thing. You know how at college they have like the curved auditorium thing with the big screen, and so they had the laptop with this dude on there about the hackathons, and it's like that could just as easily be Beyond the Horizon or any other Star Atlas specialist teaching these college kids. We had 2 educators, like I said, that are going to be funded for basic onboarding. This is like, custody, wallets, whatever. And then it's like, okay, you ready to have some fun and gamified side of it? And then they have I haven't seen the other sides yet in terms of the curriculum, but it should be pretty kick-ass. These guys are no joke. So,
That's
but
awesome,
yeah, the
man.
documentary, that's a whole nother can of worms, I guess.
That with the onboarding is also a good topic. I brought up to the team a few times. Like, I would like to have a presentation for ordinary people. Like, maybe we can create one from the DAO, like for onboarding. Because if you join this Super Teams event, they have like events in Berlin. At least there's an event every week, and always other people. And like my plan was to go there and make a presentation about Startlers. So it would be cool to have something like, because it's really big and I'm not so good in putting everything
That would
together.
make a great work group. Work group to create that kind of.
Also, we cut off Bodhi, and my list is also long. I have like 5 things I want to bring up, but the work group is really interesting as well. That's why we should let Bodhi talk first. And,
Well,
That's exactly what's needed, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to. It's just a formative change, so I just wanted to get together and look at the PIP, and it's not. I guess you could say in scope. So just like a normal review where we just look at it and figure out how to get it in scope, and then we should be able to submit it. It's 99% of the way done. Just needs like a small formative change.
and what is this working group exactly for? Like then?
It's basically to create. It's basically to. It basically gives the council the ability to create working groups. So if somebody wanted to, just to use the example Falcor just gave, where maybe there's a group that wants to go to colleges and talk about Star Atlas, and that's kind of what they want to do anyways. They wouldn't. The working groups PIP doesn't imply any funding. So if any funding is required, or if there's a possibility that there could be like the DAO could be negatively represented, like if it's consequential, I would say, like for example, if they're trying to reach out to Binance or something to get listed, like that might not work. But if it's something like this where it's like, hey, you can't really do harm to the DAO, but you could do a lot of benefit by having kind of I guess it's kind of like somewhat of a formal approval that, okay, this is a representative of the DAO, which isn't, to be quite honest, it's not very much different than a normal community member. Like any community member can go out and rep our DAO at an event or doing anything, right? Even something digitally. But by giving the ability for us to kind of put a stamp of approval on, this group and say, okay, yeah, we like formally recognize you as, a working group that's doing this specific thing. So they would apply for the working group title to do the specific thing. They would get a section in Discord where other people could join the working group if somebody else, was inclined to join that goal. And then they would they would do the goal, they would attempt to do the goal, and then eventually, the working group would close once they finished the goal, or if it just kind of staled out, or stopped just in its tracks. So it's not really giving any additional benefits, like tangible benefits, over some group that's just inclined to do it on their own. Like Falcor's just out there doing this stuff on his own, right? He doesn't have this like title as like a DAO representative, like as a working group, but he could do that, and that would give a little bit more of a like formal
Representation
title.
element, yeah.
Yeah, it would give a little bit more representation, which can benefit the recipients, like the people that he's approaching can be like, oh, this isn't just some guy who's got the gumption. This guy actually is organized. He's like officially recognized by the DAO or whatever. So that can kind of give them a little bit more credibility, and it can also be a little bit more inspiring for the people who might have an idea, but they just kind of feel like, oh, I'm just a community member. What can I do? It's like, well, you could do it, but here's a little push, like, we support you
Yeah.
is basically all it is,
It actually ties up to my, like, because I have like 3 pips in the pipeline for working groups, like, and maybe I could, like, the first would be something like similar to the meetup pip with the Calros pip with the meetups. So basically, I don't know if you saw what I posted before. On the 18th, I go to there's a blockchain week in Berlin, and there's like 150 events or something, and I go to like 1 or 2 gamings event, and I printed myself 2 flyers. I didn't put the DAO on it, but I have like prepared already with Archetype also some for the DAO that's later for the week up, and it's basically, so I posted again. It's like $50. I printed 100 flyers, like 2-sided, and then I go there. I also plan to record it, and then I give out flyers to guys. Like, I ask them if they know Star Atlas or if they web gamers, and then I give them the flyer and have the QR codes there, and then they can join Holism or the Discord for the U5 key. And we could also put the DAO on it or something, And the pip would be like, so if people attend events instead of like getting drunk with friends and getting, I don't know, what was the other pip, $500 or something, and they want to volunteer, like work for free and go around the events and have 50 flyers or 50 business cards or whatever, 50 stickers, and give them out to people, and they like directly can go to Holism or get a new E5 key or go to the DAO site or whatever. Then would that be a good pip, like something like that, like basically a merchandise marketing volunteer thingy? So if
Yeah, that was
anybody, like people who go to the Solana events or to blockchain events or to big gaming events or something, and then they could have like printed out Canva pretty like $50, and then they get 100 flyers and they get reimbursed by the DAO later on or something like that.
well, yeah, that type of group is exactly what the working group pip is for. It's
I
something
have
that you
business
could.
cards ready, Donovan. Yeah, sorry.
Well, so yeah, it's something that you could just easily do on your own. You're already doing it. But it would just give you that, that more
It's
official
just an easy
representation.
process. I don't like
Well,
none of
something
the
I wanted
people
to
wants
say.
to do. Yeah.
I just wanted to say one more thing really quick. That, and just like you said at the beginning, the working group's pip does tie in with Brian's pip really well on a lot of these types of events that you're discussing, because then you have access to being able to form the group formally, as well as get a small amount of funding for something like that, without having to go through the entire pip process. So it works really well.
I try to be fast. The next pip idea would be for working group for improving user experience, and it's a delicate topic. The first thing they would do, like, it's basically a pip to make a browser extension for the marketplace to circumvent marketplace bots, like something like a Tagup, but like a browser extension, like for for the Startlers marketplace, because that comes up like every day on Discord. Like new players, they go in the market, they want to trade, and then they can't trade and get discouraged because the bots isn't there. And I know there's tons of discussions about providing liquidity and all this stuff. But yeah, that's just the first thing they do. But then other things who come up within Startlers, like maybe like a working group for programmers who create little projects to help out people, like because people like me, I'm not that good at programming. I could put something up, but I don't have any time for it. But if there's a group like working and catching ideas from users and to help them out or something, would that be a good pip as a question? I'm not sure.
I think all of these, honestly, I think all of your ideas, just create some pip, just put them in ideas, and that way we can discuss
Yeah,
it.
I can do that.
I think they're all worthy of discussion for sure. And then, and then if they turn into a working group, if it passes, I've been a fan of the working groups the entire time. Because like with my tools that I want to make, we need to write RFPs, but I need the verbiage right, but I need somebody to help me so it sounds right. And I would love to create a working group to come up with those. So I think all three of your ideas are worthy of conversation in the Discord.
The third one, the third one would be I always wanted, I already had the pip idea posted like in the very beginning with the wiki, but now I kind of changed that, and I'm using a lot the notebook LM, and since since 3 or 4 days, you can make these notebooks public. So I loaded a few notebooks up, and I also started working with Darwin and Sask. Basically, I make a notebook and put all the lore from Startlers in it, and then you can go to that notebook. Every user can go to the notebook. It's publicly, and then ask questions about the lore, and then you get an answer, or you can make TLDRs or whatever. I have that for my latest videos. I always post them on Twitter now. So for the latest brew, for the latest econ forum, basically there's a link, and you go to that notebook, and then you ask, give me a TLDR, what did Chris say, blah blah blah. But the thing would be, it would act as a wiki. So we don't need a wiki. We create a huge notebook with all tutorials for Startlers, and every user can go to that notebook, and maybe we make a little website with an API. You can use the API on that Google Notebook LM, and then basically like an AI assistant tutorial wiki thing. The thing is, I can do it on my own. So I always look for people, maybe if somebody hears this on YouTube or whatever, join me and then help me, and we make a little working group. Because I don't want to bring up like 3 pips on my own. We already have like the 2 pips with the meetup, and then have a lot of other things to do in Startlers and modding and this and that, and recording, and so it's always, I just want to test out the waters if anybody wants to help with that kind of stuff. So it would basically be an AI wiki questionnaire thing. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that
the nice thing
awesome.
about the working groups is that it doesn't require a pip, right? So it's for relatively inconsequential things that people could do on their own anyways. It's just giving them more of a formal representation. That's all. So but
it's hard to find people.
Yeah, but there's nothing saying that working group couldn't put together a pip. I think that would be great. That would be, it's not just one person. Like VB, what you guys did with the meetup, there was like 3 or 4 of you guys. I think having more people that are interested, like power in numbers, right? So if there's 4 people going to do the work versus just one, to me, as a Polis holder and just a Star Atlas, citizen, I would look at that as an amazing thing. That would be so much better than just one. So that working group could very easily turn something into a pip, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is because I have the connection, and with Shadix and KVV and all that. But for a normal user, if he comes to the Discord or he's here in Startlers and then come up with a pip on his own, it's always super tough. Like, and to find people to help and stuff. So I'm not sure how, because I have the ideas, but I don't have the manpower.
Yeah, that is the challenge. There's a lot of people with ideas, but it's just that those that can put the team together and push forward and pre-fund most of the stuff and and then hope
I'm
for
not
the
sure how to
best.
put it in words, Yeah, and okay, done with that. And yeah, for that's for Lancer also. I in the meantime I worked a lot with since I do the shop with the T-shirts and all that stuff and flyers and business cards. I got a lot of data, and Funcracker gave me all the DAO logos and stuff. But should the DAO, the team has this build thing, but it never gets updated. Maybe we could create the council could create an own pack for users and with all the DAO stuff in it and Startlast logos, and then put it on the what is the site, Notion site? No, not Notion site. Where the wiki is from the DAO. What is it called?
The knowledge base.
The knowledge base
knowledge
is
base?
hosted on GitHub or Git something. And could we get an archive there, make a zip file or whatever, or a folder, and then somebody like Lancer or one of the council guys I send him all the pictures I have and all the logos, and we can ask archetype and create some cool stuff. So to basically,
You want me to do what?
You came up with the thing when you arrived here with the Startlast build thing with all the logos.
Streamer kit?
Yeah. But just a media kit for the DAO. Could we create one put it on the Notion on the Git book thing?
The knowledge base.
Yeah.
I would think we could. I don't know how the knowledge base works. Do you Carlos?
I
Do you
don't
put
know
stuff
how,
on there?
but I can give it to him. I was working with friend Jessica before.
Yeah,
you have.
She's gone, and the team never updates the build site. Then I say we just do it on our own for the DAO, and.
Yeah, I can look at what you sent me and then add it to the file I have. Like I have a streamer kit file on my computer, and I can just
I have like thousands of pictures of Startlast. Like it's huge, but just maybe because I was searching for the DAO logos and everything, and then Funcracker helped me out, but I had no place where I could find it. So
There's
just
not a lot,
it's a little thing, but yeah. And the other thing.
Maybe why am I looking at a model looking at us right now with his back turned? What's going on with this? What is this?
What? Where?
Look what I'm sharing.
Yeah, I could use UFace, but you never send me pictures.
You're really showcasing that T-shirt.
Yeah,
that is the real look of Bibi.
It's not me. It's not me. And the last thing I had, it ties in
Bibi
with.
lives in California.
No, yeah, I wish.
No, you don't.
What Lancer said, it was also super confusing for me. For example, to the pip with Rising Sun. I forgot the name. The Rising Sun pip.
Write-in systems.
Yeah, the 5% thing, like it's super. Like, how much Atlas does he get now? Like, or how does that work? It's for me as an outsider, it's super confusing. Like with the percentage and stuff, and what is the date?
It's just under. It's barely under 8 million Atlas. Is what it comes out to be.
Is
So
that
it's like
set? Is it that set to the date from the pip, the 5%, or every month, or how does
that is the max allocation per pip. Given the current ecosystem fund limitation, which changes when they refill the ecosystem fund. But as of right now, it's just under. Was it just under? Yeah, it was just under 8 million Atlas. It was like 7 point.
For me, like as a voter, I don't like that I don't have an like how much is that? It's like okay.
I can
Atlas, now I know.
I can give you the exact number down to the decimal point, but for the sake of conversation, it's just under 8 million Atlas.
Yeah.
But we have the exact
are
number.
You saying
asking how much is the 5%? How much is it?
Yeah, you would have. VB would have rather in the pip instead of reading 5%. He would have rather read 8 million Atlas. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
It's not possible, I guess, since the Atlas price. But then
and to be honest,
liquid went or something.
To be honest, our suggestion is if it's a PIP, then it's funding and it has bills to pay. Our suggestion is to do it in USDC
Mhm.
And then at the time that the payment is done, we will honor the equivalent USDC, even if the price of Atlas changed adversely. We will honor it. That's what the foundation said. That was the best way to avoid too much complexity. But that's the preference.
Okay, and then we have the our next pip ready, and we send it to you at I think Monday, and that's it. Thanks for your hard work, guys, and yeah, thank you.
That's gonna be awesome.
Thank you, VB.
Can't wait to go to that event as well.
Yeah, rub it in.
Nice.
You guys should go.
So, VB, here's the total amount of the maximum allocation: 7,985,000 and some change.
What is the 5% though?
That is the 5%.
Thanks.
That is the
Ye-
5% limit.
An ecosystem pip can't be 7 million. What is the max that they can be?
That is the 5%. So the ecosystem, the original ecosystem fund distribution was 20 times that amount right there. Exactly.
An ecosystem pip can be 7 million Atlas.
That's the maximum
7.9.
allocation for a pip. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That is the
Each
5%
vote,
limit right
it
there.
can actually consist on several pips, each for maximum this number.
Yep.
I can't tell if we're saying the same thing. So if I submit a pip for an ecosystem fund and the 5% is the limit, you're saying the max I can ask for is 7-point-something million Atlas.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
And that, in theory, should be rebalanced every quarter, but that hasn't been happening
Yeah, why hasn't that been happening?
because
we have only had one payout anyways.
on what they wanted to do and what they internally wanted to do, Dan versus Wagner, and we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay. It seemed
Well,
clear
there's a-
reading from it that it was supposed to be quarterly.
It was supposed to be
and-
quarterly. In one part of the PIP, it clearly says that, and in another part of the PIP also clearly says that it's a one-time thing. So
You're right. But I think the
It's-
rest of the whole context of this pit was that it's supposed to be restocked quarterly.
yeah, so it's contradictory, but that's what Wagner says is the original intention. And
Cool.
Dan Partica was hoping that was only a one-time thing, but in the end, it's probably gonna go back to that. But we haven't done any rebalancing yet, so we're waiting for them
Okay.
to.
Well,
Well,
when
and
I
you know
submit
what?
the business case pit, that'll clear it up, won't it?
It
And
would
you
be
know
nice
what?
because that's gonna increase the amount available for the community, because the income is a lot higher than what we have been spending so far.
Yeah, if it was recalibrated today, which would basically be the remaining balance in the ecosystem put back with the treasury, and then the 5% taken out of that total, it would be about 50%. That threshold would be closer to 12 million. So it definitely does go up, but I do kind of like the fact that there is a buffer with Atlas volatility, and it moves kind of slow, just to be honest. So like there were pips that started within the threshold, and by the time that we're getting to the distribution, they're actually over budget, over the 5% threshold. So it is nice to have a little bit of a buffer,
Yeah,
which is something that we talked about.
Yeah, it's impossible to avoid all that.
Yeah.
Especially when a DAO is so young that the institutions are still really flaky and they don't respond in a prompt manner. So it's a little clunky at the moment.
Bodhi, can I ask you to? You have to do it right now, but I'm going to end up asking you in the pip to please give me what those variables would be, because you seem to have a handle on where to go.
On when you're writing up all those pips. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you gotta you gotta be, unfortunately at this stage you have to be able to track the blockchain a little bit to actually look at the transaction, because if you on that pip it shows the ecosystem fund wallet, but if you go to that, the amount of Atlas that's in there isn't the original amount, it's the current amount. So, and the 5% isn't based on the current amount, it's based on the original. So you then have to go to that specific transaction the original transaction and see, okay, how much was put in originally, and then base it off of that. So it is a little bit of like blockchain navigating, which we can write up in the pip. We can give, demonstrate how to do that through an example. That we already have one example where we have a transaction. We can kind of write out how people would go about finding that out, and we can also make it more public, like we just did right now. We can kind of showcase that amount on a regular basis so that people have a good understanding. We were kind of doing that with the whole $10,000 limit thing, but that was just not right information. I don't know where that came from, but we could just get everybody kind of on the same page by just talking about, hey, it's 7.89 million. Like that's the amount, give or take a couple atlas. But yeah, I'll help you write that for sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Do we have anybody else?
Is anyone in the audience? I see some new faces. Feel free to just say hi, ask a question, tell us we're doing bad, tell us we're doing good. If anyone wants to say anything.
No, I just think this is awesome, being able to connect at this level, with the DAO and everything else connected, GBA, the grant group, the team SAC server, all of it. I guess one question it was from these developer guys is bounties see, coming out of the DAO at all?
The what?
Bounties? You asked,
Yeah, like
you cut
developer
out for
bounties. That's like
like
their
the
main thing. They
hackathon
were
thing?
asking me about it. Yeah. Like
So
I guess that's already happened. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
would
that's
love
one
to
of the
see more stuff
things.
like that.
That's one of the things I'm working on with my RFPs to create some of the tools that I've been talking about for a while. I'm in the process of writing an RFP, and so it'll either be an RFP for something, and that could turn into a bounty, or it could end up just being a bounty or an RFP. But yes, to answer your question, there will be something coming out to build some probably basic tools at this point, but it's not dissimilar
RFP
to
for
what.
Smartless?
No, for the DAO. It's on one of my slides. Emperor's tools or something. It's way down at the bottom. Of the tools that I think would be helpful for us as a DAO council to have at our disposal. So to answer your question, Falcor, yes, but it might look different than a bounty, but it might end up being a bounty.
No, that sounds
So that would
good.
be like
It's just
part of the
another puzzle
RFP.
piece,
The RFP that I've been
Yeah.
talking
What was
about,
that, Falcor?
doing it under ecosystem fund.
No,
Yeah,
go to
no,
my slide.
I guess we're going to know more as time goes on. Like there's going to be a meeting next week. So it's not just this. I mean, if we can get some protocols in place, like I love the idea of a working group. Okay. And then basically, this E thing, I would be happy to infiltrate that shit and just like benefit from it because there's money flying everywhere.
Slide.
And then there's a
Yeah.
list of 30 other clubs I have in different colleges and stuff. So if we can get some protocols together that create value for everyone, then we can repeat that. So yeah, I'm happy to, sort of get it out there. Appreciate you guys.
So it's slide 38, Lancer.
38.
Oh, there already is. There's a bug bounty, huh? I didn't know that. I feel like I found a bug before. Why did I get any bug bounty? I remember
What I'm building
texting
right
the
now,
team one.
I'm building the business case for the actual RFP system that we would use.
Wow.
Yeah, I want to talk
I
about
don't
that at our next. Because
I've been talking about this since I came on.
Okay.
The slide's been on here from the very beginning.
Yeah, I just haven't heard about it for a while.
What is
We
Vivi selling us now?
talked about it three meetings ago. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
but
is
you
he doing?
didn't actually prepare anything yet, did you? It's not there. It's not done.
Correct, but that doesn't mean we haven't talked about it. Doesn't mean that you haven't seen it. I just haven't done anything with it yet.
Okay, so other than this slide, oh right, the Google Doc. I remember that. That was in the very beginning. Oh man, so many So many eons ago. I could probably just end up deleting some of this stuff.
PowerPoint.
All right. I think we're good. We're done. We're going to close the meeting. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for coming. That's meeting number 9. We're a wrap.
That's all, folks.
All right.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks,
See
everybody.
you guys.
Adios.
Bye bye.
Has been planted.